right, thank you so much for staying with Citizen TV. This is the Monday Report Town Hall session where we're talking about the new curriculum divide. My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us live from the Greenhouse Mall along Gong Road. And your views are also welcome on this CBC implementation. What do you think? Use the hashtag Monday Report. You can tweet at Trevor Mbija, at M. Kapombe, at Citizen TV Kenya, and at Waiga Mwaura. Use the Monday Report as the hashtag. Will sample some of your views during this broadcast. Let's get straight into it, and I'll start by introducing my guests. From my farthest right, Mudoni Ouko, education specialist, and also a CBC task force member. Thank you so much for coming in. And next to her is Nicholas Mayo, Chairperson, National Association of Parents. Thank you so much for coming in. And Dr. Wandia Njoya, a lecturer at the Daystar University and also a blogger. We'll talk about the blog where you spoke about the CBC in just a bit. Thank you for coming in as well. And last but not least, Dr. Julius Juan, CEO, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Let's get into that discussion almost immediately, Dr. Juan. And I'll start with you. So the sessional paper is still stuck in Parliament. Even then, the National Assembly Education Committee has raised several issues with this CBC. One, no details of the number of teachers required for implementation, no clarity on tools of teachers monitoring, infrastructural needs for different sources in schools, several issues, just to name but a few. No evidence of public participation as well is one of them. Why are we doing this now?
Thank you for having me, and it's good to engage the public on this. The questions you are reading, if you check, were raised sometimes last year. And when we engaged the parliamentary committee, they raised some of those issues. We came back, we cleaned them up, and if you look at the document in Parliament now, all that was sorted out. I don't know whether you've seen it.
Dr. Juan, I've seen that document. One of the issues that was raised was infrastructural needs.
Yes.
There's a story we aired on Citizen today.
Yes.
That there are certain schools that still cannot implement this as it is. They still need more teachers. This is coming at a time when we have a deficit of 34,000 teachers in the primary school and 87,000 in secondary school. Can you confidently say we are ready?
Thank you, Trevor. Maybe I need to clarify that the change of the introduction of a new curriculum will not wait until the day that we have all the teachers we need in this country, that we have all the infrastructure we need in this country. If you have any single country that reforms the curriculum and wait for that to be done, you can say that. What happens is that the change of curriculum comes with the demands of the society, the changing society. I'll give you an example of what is happening now.
Yeah.
The current curriculum as we have it is for the privileged cognitive few. We had, for example, 660,000 students take KCSE exams. 90,000 of them were admitted into the university. The 570,000 who, for one reason or another, could have talent in other areas are not provided for. We tell them that those who cannot go to the university can also go to.
Okay.
And they will also go to, you will never see sports, you will never see talents in theater arts, you will never see talents like in music, in comedy being provided for in this other situation.
So you believe this will enable them to exercise their talents?
The current situation in the country, Trevor, requires that we should have changed. Actually, we should have looked at our curriculum 5 years after we started 844.
Okay.
That was after 1985. We did summative evaluation in 2009. It went like that. The last review was done in 2003.
Yeah.
This is 15 to 16 years later. We have never touched our curriculum. Look at literature.
All right.
What is required of a country to be reviewing their curriculum regularly?
We'll come into these details in just a bit. Dr. Wandi, I read one of your blogs and you're terming this new shift as a colonial elitism. Why is that?
Because of, in fact, actually one of the ideas I find problematic is talent, because basically you're saying people are born with abilities or they are not. And yet education is supposed to be a social leveler so that everybody has an equal chance to improve or to learn and then it's up to society and life to decide who is better than the other. But when you go into the education system already deciding that some people are not going to pass because they are not talented, how do you know it's not because of lack of resources or no teachers or no materials? How do you know, even because, you know, we teachers are not innocent, we carry our prejudices into the classrooms. How do you know that those prejudices are not the ones determining who is talented, quote unquote? And I'm sure many of us here can remember a teacher who said we can't make it, and yet here we are today. So, and that's what I was saying, that at the before the curriculum is implemented, we needed to hear how we would prevent such prejudices and inequalities from determining how children perform in the system.
So prejudice and inequality, you'll respond to that in just a bit, but Mayo, you represent the parents. Are parents ready for this? Are they ready for this CBC?
Are they?
But are parents ready for CBC implementation? You represent them.
Yes.
What do they tell you? Are they ready? And why?
Thank you so much, Manombija, for having me. As I represent the parents, I would say that in a family of 5 siblings, the 5 children will not have the same talent. They differ. And if you compare the old system, the 844, and the new CBC, it is more for these children to go through the new CBC than the old one. Since the new curriculum offers interests of the child, it is child-centered. So the child can have a say in the new CBC. Number 2, it also nurtures talent, unlike the 844. In the 844 system, it was exam-oriented. The CBC has continuous assessment and it has no failures. Remember, Manombija, 2016 we had 32,000 of our Form 4 students who got an E. 2017 we had 30,000. And the last year, 2018, there were about 26,000. And when you have an E in Kenya, you'll not go anywhere.
Okay.
Not even for a certificate course. So as parents, we agreed, because I sit in the steering committee of the new curriculum, and having been trained on the CBC, it is much better than the old one, the 844 system.
All right.
Yes.
Mudoni, you were sitting on the task force of the CBC. Are you happy with the way it was rolled out?
Let me say that a lot has been said, and I want to admit from the word go that probably what the Ministry of Education has not done very well is to give information, to parents and Kenyans at large, so that there's a lot of misinformation out there. One of the things that I would want to note is that this is not a process that began last year. In fact, Professor Magoha is the 6th minister in line on this work. It began with Sam Ongeri, went to Mutula, went to Dr. Fred Matiang'i, then went to Amina, and now we have Magoha. And I think there is one that I've skipped. There is Professor Kaimenyi. So it's not something new. It's something that stakeholders have gone through. I'm happy to note that I can see Dr. Andiwo Bondo here and members of the task force. This discussion has been there, and documents have been produced. Whether they have been shared with the public is a discussion of another day. But this is what I want to say, that we are the same people that have been feeling that 844 has let down a majority of learners. And this is against the backdrop of a constitution that we gave to ourselves that says that every child, the constitution says every child, it doesn't say some. And that is why we are rooting for the CBC, so that every child can realize their full potential. And if you listen to the figures that Dr. Juan has mentioned, and also Mr. Mayo, about us producing 30,000, really, what verdict are we giving to those children? But here is an opportunity of saying everybody has something else that they are better at doing, and not necessarily just testing them for their ability to reproduce what they were taught in class. So really, this is an amazing idea, and I want to say a lot of thought has gone through it. but there are always challenges here and there.
Okay.
And what probably we should be discussing is how do we go about those challenges so that we can gift to our children this very good gift.
Okay, let's bring in the audience on this, and there are several questions. Mashirima is with them. Mashirima, mambo vipi?
Mambo sawa kabisa Trevor. Tutaanza na mwalimu hapa aweze kutueleza yeye fikra zake ni zipi. Simama tafadhali. Anza kwa jina lako kamili, mwalimu kutoka wapi na swali lako ni lipi?
Kwa majina naitwa Mr. Cyrus Mema kutoka Kiambu County. Ningependa kuuliza swali kwa panel kwamba serikali imejiandaa kivipi kuhakikisha kwamba mfumo huu mpya hauanguki kama ule wa 844 kwa upande wa implementation kama ilivyofanyika. Asante.
Naam, kabla hilo swali halijajibiwa, kuna mzazi hapa. Kuna swali ulilomuuliza Bwana Mayo hapa kwa wazazi wanasemaje. Nadhani hakulijibu. Huyu hapa mzazi. Tuambie jina lako, una watoto katika shule gani na swali lako ni lipi?
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Livingstone Sunday na mimi ni mzazi, ingawaje bado hajaingia shule, but nina hofu. Hofu ya kwanza, wameweka CBC ni kama ya ministry na mwanafunzi, but wamewacha mzazi. Je, watafanyaje ili mzazi ajue hii kitu itaanzaje, ndio akienda kununua vitabu ajue ni kitabu gani anaweza inunua. But kwa saa hii hata homework yenyewe hatujui tunaweza saidiaje watoto wetu.
Tukisalia na hilo swala la kuelewa, kuna mmoja hapa anaitwa Ferdinand nadhani. Simama Clive, simama tafadhali tuambie swali lako.
My name is Clive Lupao. I'm from Nairobi. My question is about to Dr. Wandia. What is the level of preparedness of universities and other tertiary institutions which train teachers? Because you realize they're still being taught about the 844 system, and when they go back to practice what they've been taught in the universities, they're now being told to teach about the CBC. So what is the level of preparedness? Because you can realize even the universities have been very silent. Most of the conversation has been between the ministry and NAT and primary school teachers. What is the level of what's the position of universities?
Nadhani hayo yametosha kwa sasa.
Tuanze na hizo kwa kwanza sawa.
Thank you. Allow me to start with the issue that was raised by Daktari here.
Yeah.
On the issue on the matter of prejudice.
And
really, this is a matter that needs to be addressed. Now, the mission of the new curriculum is nurturing every learner's potential. What we are saying here is that everybody who goes to school should appreciate that each of us has something that God gave us. That every teacher should appreciate that every learner who comes to us has something. And therefore, if I'm not very good in English, it does not mean I will be poor in music. If I'm not very good in maths, it does not mean I will be poor in art. So what we are trying to say is that, just as she's saying, everybody is born with something. This is not just something we are doing in Kenya. This is a research that is going on, and every country, if you want to improve your education, first of all, give every learner an opportunity. The fact that I didn't pass biology does not mean that I cannot be a comedian. And if I'm a comedian, I will earn a living and contribute to the economy of the country. Okay. This is what we are lacking in the current curriculum, and that is why I'm saying we can't wait a single day as our learners go wasted simply because they didn't pass specific learning areas.
So
number two,
let's talk into that a bit and be a bit more practical.
Yes.
So assuming a student could have been very good at coding, but because at computer coding and having codes, but because he has poor parents in Tana River and is not been exposed to that laptop, how do you compare that child to a child who's in Nairobi and is going to a private school and has a laptop? So what is it's not equal for both of them, because the child in Tana River would have been better at coding maybe, but because he doesn't have the resources, he can't do it. So where is the equality in that?
Trevor, it is worse in the current system, because that child in Tana River is going to sit the same examination with that child in Nairobi, and they're going to be ranked on the same equal. Now here we are saying, because we are that different, if the child in Nairobi will do in coding, let us not rank the child in Tana River on the same coding. Maybe there's something else they can do that will help them earn a living, which is not the case now. Now you give the same exam, you must pass the maths, You must pass the biology, you must pass English and Kiswahili for you to move on.
Dr. Njoya disagrees.
I wanted to answer some of the questions. Some of the people asked about the parents buying books. In public primary schools, as we talk now, up to grade 3, I know people watch the story of Olympic. The government is buying books for all the children. And the cabinet secretary indicated about a week ago, by 30th of this month, visit any public school and find if those books have been distributed. If you have any parents here from Muranga, from Kiambu, tell me if your child went to school today and they didn't find them, because I'm aware that those areas are already covered.
Okay.
So the distribution is going on.
All right.
And so don't worry, in a public school, don't worry about the buying of the books.
There was a question on implementation that was asked here.
There was a question on implementation. I want to make something clear here on factors of implementation. I am a teacher. When I went to be trained as a teacher, I was never trained on 844. I was never trained on 742. A teacher is trained on the general and specific methodologies of implementing a curriculum.
Okay.
That is why at some stage, you even saw Kenya exporting teachers to other countries. Those countries were not following 844. That is why we have teachers trained in Kenyan universities and they go to teach international schools in Kenya.
Okay.
What happens that when you're trained as a teacher, for those of us who are a teacher, you know, you will be taught various methodologies of teaching. Okay. Lecture method, collaboration, discussion, question and answer, activities.
All right.
What we are doing now, like if you go to teach in another country now, is reorienting the teachers to move away slightly from the lecture method towards engaging learners in question and answer, discussion and activities.
Okay.
That does not mean that these teachers are going to be taught anything now. And I asked you one question. We have teachers who are trained in Kenya and they're teaching in other countries, they never go through any training. They are given an orientation of what goes on in that country. So when you talk about teacher training, we are not giving them anything that they don't know.
Okay.
As a teacher, at least that is the fact.
All right.
So I think that is a myth that has been going on that is confusing.
All right. Dr. Wandia, there was a question about the level of preparedness for universities, and you also wanted to react to the issue of inequality.
Okay. I agree. I think that's probably the only place where I agree with Dr. Juan, that teachers are trained in several approaches for teaching. So you don't really need to go back to school for 2 years to be able to teach in a curriculum. You are just, but the approach has to be explained, and that's where we teachers have a dispute, that it has not been explained properly what exactly is so unique about CBC that makes the Kenyan experience destined to succeed where others have not succeeded. Because once I heard about CBC, I went to research about it like a good teacher, and the results are not good. And we have not yet had any engagement from the scholars who did this thing. We have not had any engagement from the ministry about why this thing is successful, especially at primary school. Because what the research says is that CBC is for TVET, for tertiary education, because it's for training workers. So that's where our dispute is. Okay, oh Jesus, sorry to call on God, but you can't say that a child who has no resources did not do well in maths because they were not talented that way. That's not right. And that's exactly what I'm disputing. How do we know that people who are not being failed by lack of equipment, resources, exposure, and then you're saying that that is talent? That's not talent, it's inequality. And like I said 2 years ago, what is going to happen is that the places with no resources, no teachers, no equipment, no labs, no computers, they are going to be told that if they failed, it's because they are talented in other ways. So that's how you increase the inequality, because the people who will get the scientific the academic and the prestigious jobs will be from Nairobi and the areas that are exposed.
Okay.
And then everybody else will be told that they have talent. And let me remind Kenyans that 844 was a system designed that when you leave each stage, you can take care of yourself. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but that was the design. The design was when you finish primary school, and that's why it was longer.
Okay.
When you finish primary school, if you don't get into high school, you can do something for yourself. If you finish high school and you don't go to university, you can extend your skills.
Okay.
But now what is happening is that everybody must go through the system, and the inequalities in different areas are not being addressed.
All right. Mudoni, you want to react to that?
I'm just interrogating what Daktari is saying.
Yeah.
Because lately, when you listen to the constituency where she comes from, is a constituency that is producing new evidence about how CBC cannot work. And I want to say, for the sake of putting the facts right, that the teacher constituency has been the most represented constituency in any meeting that I know that finally came up with the CBC.
Did they raise those issues then?
Beginning from the Odhiambo task force.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about the teacher constituency, you're talking at any one meeting, you have the Kenya National Union of Teachers, you have the Kenya, the KUPPET, you have the Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, you have the Kenya Primary School Heads Association, you have the Kenya Private School Teachers Association.
Yeah.
Those are 5 members of one constituency, yet in that particular meeting, you will only have one parent representing the Parents Association. You will only have one publisher representing all publishers.
Did they
and
raise
therefore
those
we
concerns
can say,
then?
including the current steering committee for steering the CBC, we have overrepresentation of the teacher constituency. Why didn't they present those findings, those bits of information there? Because sometimes we also have to be very honest. When we sit in meetings and we don't represent facts in those meetings, we'd rather stop going for those meetings as opposed to going, sitting pretty, but then coming to the media it doesn't look really very responsible.
So you don't think those issues were raised then? And Dr. Juan wants to come in very briefly before I bring in my own.
Very quickly,
Yes.
because this is what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Now, 844 was made 8 years because that time, learners, not all learners from primary school used to go to secondary school. So we decided to introduce technical subjects so that those who are not able to proceed to secondary schools would have skills that they could take to the job market or technical institutes.
Yeah.
In the year 2003, the technical subjects were removed. We went to our normal knowledge-based education. So we left those learners who were living at 4 with no technical skills. What happens to them? The government introduced 100% transition so that nobody drops out at grade 8 or study 8 because there's nothing they're going to do.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the principles of 844, basically we have not lost them. What we are doing now is embedding those technical subjects and protecting them to ensure somebody stays in school up to grade 12.
Okay.
So that is exactly what we are doing. That is number one. Number two, CBC. In fact, thank God I carried some of these documents. Over 75 countries call it CBC. Other countries will call it outcomes-based. Other countries will call it skills-based. In Finland, they have even gone ahead now, they want to call it phenomena-based, where learners don't go focusing on any specific subject. You go to school and then you try to find your bearing. The main difference between those types of education system or education learning system with knowledge-based is that they all say that you acquire knowledge and then what do you do with that knowledge? In education, you will talk of cognitive, affective, psychomotor. What we are saying in KICD, let us focus on the child's head, the heart, and the hands.
Okay.
We have over-focused on the head and forget that as human beings, we must have values, we must have ethics, and then we need to live in a community and therefore how to apply that where we live.
All right. Keep your feedback coming. The hashtag is Monday Report. Mashirima still has more questions. Mashirima?
Naam, Trevor, sasa hebu tuzungumzie swala ambalo wengi wamekuwa wakihisi kuwa hawajahusishwa. Dennis, simama tafadhali. Swali lako.
I'm Dennis, and my question goes to the panelist. Was there public participation so that everyone is involved in this new curriculum? So, you find out that there is a pull and push between TSC and the NAT, so that let us have a public participation so that everyone is involved and so that they understand what is the new curriculum entails. Thank you. Okay.
Naam, Winnie ni mwanafunzi kutoka chuo kikuu cha Catholic University. Simama tafadhali. Swali lako.
My name is Winnie. Okay, my question is, as we all know, most teachers have not been well trained on the new curriculum. How sure is the government that the few skilled teachers will be able to implement the required knowledge on the different areas of specialization to the students? Thank you.
Na tuko hapa na Daktari Emmanuel Manyasa ambaye nadhani alikuwa pia katika hicho kikao cha kupanga huu mtaala mpya. Tafadhali simama daktari. Kuna hilo swali ambalo limeulizwa kuhusiana na kama wananchi walihusishwa kwa upande wako.
Nafikiri wananchi wamehusishwa, na ukisema kuhusishwa haimaanishi tutaita baraza kisha watu waje wajadili. Ina maana kwamba wataalamu fulani wataitwa, makundi fulani yatahusishwa, yatawakilishwa kwenye hiyo mikutano, na kwa maoni yangu makundi mengi yalihusishwa. Huo ni ukweli ambao upo, we cannot dispute that fact that there was public participation. At the moment, yes, there is pull and push between NAT and TSC and the ministry. I think it's normal for friction, because movement is a product of friction. It's normal for friction to happen. What I want to see happening is that this friction leads us to more discussion, more figuring out of how we want to address the challenges that are emerging, because challenges will keep emerging now and in the near future. So for me, what we want to be doing is a framework of engagement, continuous engagement, to make sure that the stakeholders continue to engage as we implement. But we cannot say there was no public participation. There was. We cannot say that this curriculum is so bad. I went to school, we were 38 of us in class 8. 11 went to Form 1, 3 went to university, 2 finished university, 1 has a PhD. If that's the system we want to maintain, where are the other 37 in the 38 that we were in class 8? And that is the case across Kenya with the current system. So we need to agree that this system wastes a lot of people and that we need to move on. We need to agree on how we address the challenges that come along the implementation of the new curriculum. Thank you.
Na kwa hilo swali ambalo limeulizwa kuwa kuna baadhi ya walimu ambao wanasema kuwa hawaelewi huu mtaala mpya, wanasema kweli?
Mtu akisema sielewi, ni vigumu kurudi kumwambia unaelewa. Sasa labda itabidi tujadiliane nao, tuelewe kwamba ni kiwango gani hawaelewi na wanaweza saidiwa vipi kuelewa, sababu hatuwezi tukawaambia mnaelewa kama wanasema hatuelewi.
Asante sana Daktari Manyasa. Kuna swali lingine ambalo lilikuwa limeulizwa na mtaalam wa miradi mbalimbali. Simama kidogo utuambie swali lako ni lipi?
Kwa majina ni Barsulai Kipkorir, teacher and a specialist in ICT integration in education. My question goes to issues to deal with implementation, and I will go back and look at the integration of ICT, the laptop program, a program that was so good. All the teachers were so happy about it, but eventually the program just fizzled out, money was spent, the resources are not being used. So my question is, the implementation of this program, is it another Brexit where we realize that the program are not rolling out? Teachers say we better go back to the 844. How prepared are we? Or we are going into a situation where we will get lost again like the 844 system? Thank you.
Dr. Rijwan.
Thank you very much.
And he is a teacher, by the way.
Yes, I'm happy. Actually,
he's one of the people who are supposed to be prepared and ready.
I wanted to address that issue of the teachers.
Yes.
When you're introducing a new curriculum, the way we have done, you will not take teachers from standard 1 and standard 8 and train all of them and tell them now you can start CBC. The way we started training the teachers was from early years education. Teachers who teach in standard 1 or grade 1 up to grade 3. In many schools, you'll find that at that level is either one teacher or two teachers. Now, as we go to grade 4, which is next year, this April we train 2 teachers of grade 4. In August, we'll be training more teachers. Same to December. So what we do, you do it gradually as you move to the next grade. If you train somebody who teaches in secondary school now, and we are getting there in 2024, you can take it to the bank. By the time you get there, you will be going for another training. Research has shown that when you're introducing and you're orienting the teachers, you train them, then they go and implement in class, and then you have people around them who are helping them with the mentorship. Okay. That is the process that is done across the world, and that is the process. So if you go to any primary school, there are 8 teachers, for example. Okay. There are only 2 in lower primary. It is those 2 we trained. Okay. In April, we trained another 2. So progressively, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be there.
So it's normal for teachers to feel a bit confused because they've not
those
been trained
we have
yet.
not
Their
teach
turn
definitely
is not,
will wander.
Okay.
But when we get there and we train them,
then
because it is nothing new.
All right.
It's just telling them to do things a little different.
Okay, let me bring in Mudhoni on this. And the issue here is public participation.
Yeah.
It has come up several times. And you mentioned quite a number of groups that were with you during the task force meeting. How was it carried out, and how come there's so much discomfort around it?
I think on public participation, it's good for us to be fair and honest and say that maybe there are some aspects that the Ministry of Education and the lead institution that they haven't done so well, especially in bringing the parents on board. I know they've done, but of course probably it's really hard to reach on everyone. There is a teachers there, as you heard Dr. Emmanuel saying, if someone says that they have not had, really you can't really tell them that they have had. So it would be important moving forward for the ministry to step up efforts of reaching everyone, so that there is support, you know, from across board, and so that when all these negative, messages about how bad it is, at least when they have a set of facts or at least some basic understanding, it would be really hard for all this negativity about the CBC.
So now you agree with
really
Dr. Wandia that there wasn't enough public participation now?
No, I'm saying even when other big projects, even when public participation has been done on other projects, you still hear people say, I have not been reached. So it's always good to accept the feedback, and because the biggest room in the house is room for improvement. There is always something new that you can do to improve, and it's always fair to take the feedback from people. People are saying we have not been reached by that information. It's pointless to tell them, no, we have told you, we have had. So we take it and say the lead institution should probably step up the information about telling people what is this CBC. You had a parent there saying, I don't know what books I am supposed to buy. So I think we need a little bit more of information to reach the parents.
All right, Mayo, and your response to that, because you're dealing with the parents there, what do they tell you? Are they concerned?
Yeah, but Mbicha, I think as a parent, I would concur with Janet that we need empowerment, because the level of education for every individual parent is not the same. Some other parents who are learned can go ahead and know a lot about the CBC. Other parents are so busy looking for school fees, they don't have time to listen to the radio, the media, or even the TV. Now they are asleep. They are not even hearing our views, because they are tired, working hard for their children. So from the point of a parent, as the saying goes, uchungu wa mwana ajuaye ni nani? Ni mzazi. So I would ask the Minister of Education to empower these parents, for them to reach on the same foot with everybody else in the ministry. Because last 2 months we produced a manual in conjunction with KICD that will go a long way in training our parents. The manual is parenting empowerment and engagement manual. That is now the point where the parent will meet with all the issues of the ministry. And because as a parent, you are only concerned about your child, the principals and the teachers in school, when you go for meetings of parents' days, clinical days in school, that is now the time you will meet that manual.
All right.
And I'll ask the ministry to publish more for every parent. Every copy every parent to have every parent to have a copy.
Okay.
So that you'll be reading at your own time.
All right.
And you know exactly what goes on about your child, especially on CBC.
All right, let's take a quick break here on the Monday Report Town Hall session. When we come back, we're still talking about the curriculum divide. Keep it coming on social media. The hashtag we're using is Monday Report. We have Lewis Mugambi who says, just to start with, the CBC thing is just mind-boggling. It is just about implementation. Are we taking into account the desired results? And we have Odingo Kodingo who says, we need a worthy blueprint education curriculum that is matched to job opportunities. It is affordable and creates a possibility to extend the skills. Mashirima?
Kennedy Otinga naye anasema, is it true that parents will be doing homework as kids play, because that's heavily coming out of this curriculum. Mwingine hapa anauliza swali kuwa teachers that are used to train students to pass exams have a problem with CBC because they are being forced to know each and every student. To nurture talent, you must be a real second parent. There is nothing wrong with CBC. Tutarejea hivi punde. Endelea tu kutuma arafa yako au kupitia mtandao wa Twitter ukitumia hashtag Monday Report. Nambari ya arafa ni 22422. Usiondoke.